Hello everyone, this is my opportunity to go over the 13-week cash flow worksheet with you so you can start using it for your business. The first thing I want to mention is when you open it, there are multiple tabs at the bottom. You can see that there's a forecast tab, an inflow tab, an outflow tab, inflow underscore actual and outflow underscore actual. Inflow means money coming into the company, so that's your commissions. Outflow means money going out of the company, that's your expenses. The first two of the inflow and outflow are your estimates, and we're going to work today mostly with the estimates tabs and the forecast window. So when the forecast window comes up, anything that's in orange is initially blank. So I have set this worksheet up by simply setting the date for Monday, January 6, 2014. When I did that, it set the dates for all the weeks in the first 13 weeks of 2014. You also need to set what your opening balance is for your bank account. And if you don't know what your opening balance is for your bank account, you need to go online or to your bank and figure out what that is. This allows us to do this projection that's in the top portion and see how your money grows and changes as time goes on and whether you have any cash gaps in your business. After that, everything else that's in here gets entered on the other sheets. So if we go now to the inflow sheet, this is your estimate for commissions coming in from selling houses or for sellers, so listings, or buyers. And what I've done basically is take a projection from our example in our class and divided it up over the 4 weeks in every month to give you a level base of commission. Now I recognize in the real world that's not necessarily the way it's going to be, but it's a good way of demonstrating the budgeting process. So I took the money from our estimated revenue coming in that we needed to cover all of your expenses, and I spread it out as commission over the first 3 months, 13 weeks of cash flow. In the outflow area, this is where we are going to list the expenses for the business. Now you can do the same thing for your personal. So even though I'm focused here on the expenses and revenue for the business, you can actually use the 13-week cash flow estimate and actuals for your personal life as well. So again, I took the expenses for the business that we used in the example in class. I listed them out here on the page, and then I divided up by month when I thought it would be paid. So for example, the website. We had an estimate on the website of a couple $1,000. I think it was $1,200 a month or $1,200 a year for running your website. So what I did is I took that number, divided it by 12, and came up with a monthly number. And actually, it looks like it's a little shy of that. So it's a little under. It's probably around $1,000 a year for the website. So I took that number and I said, we're going to pay him on the first week of every month. So $83 in January, $83 the first week in February, and $83 the first week in March. For marketing, we had a marketing budget. And what I did is I took the marketing budget and I divided it up again over 12 months. And then I divided it within the month into every week. So it turned out to be $25 per week that we had to spend on marketing. Now your marketing budget is whatever your marketing budget is. This is the estimate that was used in class. The cell phone expense, I just made it set for the middle of January. So the cell phones are due in the middle of January, the middle of February, and the middle of March. The training and events is money that you have budgeted for to go into training or take training or go to networking events or whatever it might be. And again, I divided it up into 12 and I put $167 into January, $167 into February, and $167 into March. Now you can pick which week of the month you want to put that budget amount into. I just selected based on my example here. So it's not carved in stone that the training and events money comes out in the first week in January. You could very well have training and expense money coming out every week. as long as the total is within your budget. The miscellaneous is expenses like office supplies that might come up during the month. You can actually itemize more expenses than what we had in the example, but this is the first step. So for miscellaneous expenses, I had a money amount that came out in $83 in January, $83 in February, and $83 in March. Your accountant, I assume that your accountant might do your month end, do your bank reconciliations at the end of the month. So I put $125 at the end of January, $125 at the end of February, and $125 at the end of March. The last item on the expense list is the you getting paid, and I had you getting paid twice a month. So basically the middle of the month and the end of the month. The middle of the month, the end of the month. Middle of the month, end of the month. What this creates by week is an expense amount for you to follow as an estimate. Now, if you look at these expense amounts, so for January 6th, the total expenses is $275. If I go back to the forecast and look at the January amount in the outflows, it's $275. So the numbers from those sheets correspond back to the numbers on this sheet. And if you can't remember, there's listings on the side that say where the numbers come from. Now, as you go through the weeks and you get real numbers to put in, you can actually go to the inflow actual, which is money coming in, commissions coming in for you, and outflow actuals, which is the real numbers from your expenses. And you may find over time you need to add items onto the list. That's fine. You can add whatever you want. The inflow actuals, for example, I had you selling house A as a listing. It sold and you actually received your commission on January 20th. So you want to put the number in when you receive it, not when you sold the house. House C sold sometime earlier in January or late December, and you actually received the commission at the end of January. House B sold sometime in January or February, and you got the commission in February, at the end of February. These numbers, again, these are the actuals, correspond back to, so if I look at January 20th, there was a commission of $5,000. So if I look at January 20th's actuals, there's a commission of $5,000 in January. So these numbers actually correspond as we go back and forth. The same with your expenses. So let's say all of a sudden you have an expense for insurance, which isn't on the list here, so I'm going to add insurance because you forgot to put it in your budget. I'm going to put it somewhere at the end of January, and let's say your business insurance is $1,000. So I added $1,000. It upped the number at the top for that week. And if you look at it on January 27th, your expenses went up to $1,233. And you'll notice that that number is actually different than what the numbers were in your estimates. So if you look at your estimates, we had you getting paid that week. Now in the outflow here, I paid you in one lump sum a month. Now you can divide that up again. You could take this out and you could go, I want to get paid this week. So 5,000 divided by 2. And I want to get paid at the end of January. So 5,000 divided by 2. And you could do the same as you did for the estimates sheet. Oops, get the wrong key. So in this sheet, in some of these, in any of the cells that are orange, you can use formulas as I'm doing here. So if you want to demonstrate something a little bit easier, you can have Excel do all the math for you. And then we have there. So I divided this up. So the total expenses according in actuals on January 27th, and the actual side was $74.83. So if you look back here, there's your 74.83 right there. Now what this program will do is it will look at your estimate, which is your forecast. It'll look at your actuals, and then it's going to graph them for you. And what the graphs show on the inflow side, which is your commission side, is whether you're ahead or behind your estimates. So for our example, we didn't have any cash coming in any actual cash commissions come in the first week in January, but we did have money coming in after that. So when we look at our actuals, it's showing us that this week our estimate of commissions was down, this week it's up, this week it's up, up, up. We didn't bring any commissions in the first week of that of February, then we actually brought in more than we estimated in those 2 weeks. No commissions at the start of March and the rest of the month. So it looks like your actuals are actually bringing in more money than your estimates, and that's a good thing. That means you didn't overestimate what you can bring in. The same happens on the expense side, the outflow side. It looks at your estimates between estimate and actual. So the light green is actual, the dark green is estimate. It tells you if your estimates are in line. Now you'll notice that week that I added the insurance in, your actual expenses were higher than your estimate. So when you're looking at expenses, you want your actuals to be the same or lower, because that means you're maintaining and managing your cash flow really well. But this was an expense that you had forgotten about, not earth-shattering, it's just something to be aware of, that you had an unexpected expense in that week that you didn't account for previously. It just makes you more aware of your cash flow and your cash gaps. So potentially, this looks like a big expense week, the week 6, and you have no commissions coming in. So this is a cash gap. So you have to take the money that you made in weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, save some of it up because you have expenses in week 6 that you need to cover. You need to be aware of that so you don't overspend in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that was just a really basic way of doing this spreadsheet. We can go over it in detail again. I hope that this gave you a little bit of insight on how to use this. You can use this sheet every 13 weeks, so the next time you start it, you can actually do a save as of this original sheet, make it for the next 13 weeks, and just adjust your numbers accordingly and change the starting date. Then you have all of your expenses listed and you don't have to re-enter that every time. Anyways, I thank you for your time. I hope that the review of the 13-week cash flow forecasting sheet has been useful. And again, like I say, we can absolutely review it again if you need more clarification. Thank you.